for another interesting ASMR historical lessons, let's say. And today we're gonna dive in the world of medieval castle design, shapes and structure to discover how the medieval castles from Europe evolved, how they varied in design, and based on their location and purpose. So, stay close. Alright, so let's start. And first, we're gonna start with motte-and-bailey castle. Motte-and-bailey castle, which was a structure mostly built between 10 and 12th century. 10 and 12th century. The structure was a wooden one, a wooden structure, a stone keep on a raised earth mound, stone keep, with an enclosed courtyard which is named bailey, and the wooden keep raised. The purpose was a quick build offering basic defense. Did you know that the Windsor Castle originally was a motte-and-bailey before being upgraded? Well, let's enumerate the advantages. So the advantages was quick to build, elevated position, on the moat, provides good defensive advantages in all directions, and was effectively on new controlled lands. The disadvantages because it was made most of wood structure were highly vulnerable to fire and decay, and could be easily destroyed by the siege weapons. The motte-and-bailey castle. Now let's move to a more advanced structure. The stone keep castle. Well, the stone keep castle started to appear between 12th and 13th century, and the structure was a large one. A large structure with in square shape with stone towers, narrow walls and windows, and a central keep. The purpose is that this design was more durable and defensible than wooden castle. The White Tower at the Tower of London. Now, the advantages and disadvantages. So, these are stronger. Difficult to breach with conventional weapons. So, provided better living conditions for lords and garrisons, but there are some disadvantages too. And one of the disadvantages is expensive to build. Expensive to build, and limited visibility to the small windows, limited visibility to the small windows, like we can see here. Well, another disadvantage is that could be vulnerable to undermining. Undermining like attackers digging tunnels to collapse the walls or to intrude inside. So, the Stonekeep Castle. Good. Next. Let's move to the next one. Next shape. The Concentric Castle. Concentric Castle. Right here. It was built mostly between 13th and 15th century. The structure had multiple layers of walls and was a much complex building than the Stonekeep castles. They had outer layer of walls and the inner layer of walls, making very difficult to be conquered by siege or invasion. And often they are built in a circular or polygonal shape. The purpose is to maximize defense. Maximize defense. And making sieges more difficult. Well, they have advantages and disadvantages to extremely strong defense due to multiple layers of wall. This is one of their advantages. Attackers had to breach several barriers before reaching the inner keep of the castle, so very hard to conquer. Towers and gardens wall allowed for better field of fire. The disadvantages are very expensive, very expensive. To build required large amount of land resources. Well, they had a drawback. Could be still starved out if surrounded by enemies' strong army. By an enemy strong army if surrounded, they could be sieged until they starved. So this was the concentric castle design. And now the next one. The next one is Shall Keep Castle. Shall Keep Castle. Well, it was mostly built, erected between 11th and 13th century. It has a circular or polygonal stone wall. Yeah, you may see, replacing the wooden palisade of a moat. The Shellkeep Castle was an upgraded motte-and-bailey castle. Provided stronger fortifications while utilizing existing moat structures. One example is Restormal Castle in England. advantages is durable compared to the motte-and-bailey castle, so we can say this is durable, and yeah, this is upgrade. It utilizes the moat structure, saving construction time, so less expensive. Expensive. Provided a good balance of defense and cost efficiency. Well, disadvantage is a small design, still smaller, so more prone to be conquered, fast conquered, and is less fortified than later castles. Very good for a provisional or a temporary castle, and it was vulnerable to artillery and siege. Vulnerable to artillery. Artillery or siege. And it lacks multiple layers of defense like concentric castles. Next in the list is Quadrangular castle. Quadrangular castle. This is later was started to be built between 14th and 15th century. The structure is a square or a rectangular courtyard enclosed by thick walls and towers at each corner. The purpose is these mostly were served as residences, and well, combining residences with a small fortresses, they were named small fortresses. So, fortress. Exempled Bodiam Castle in England. Advantages. Well, due to the square shape or rectangular, has a few weaker points, so strong walls provided good defense against enemy attacks. It has spacious design inside, allowed for larger living areas and garrisons. One peculiar fact is that this design was mostly adopted in England and Nordic countries because it has it was easily adaptable for both military and residential use. So, residential and military, or both. The disadvantages: weakness in designs, because if one side was breached, then mostly the castle was doomed. Required a strong foundations and careful planning, because it's a heavy one. Could be less defensible than concentric castles, so due to the lack of multiple layers of walls and defenses. Next in the list is the Gothic type castle. Gothic type castle. This type of castle was built mostly between 14th and 16th century in Western Europe mostly. The structure is more elaborate and has decorative designs featuring pointed arches, large windows, and ornate towers. This was a design or a type that combined defense with luxury for noble families. Example: Karlsien Castle in Czech Republic, Karlstein Castle, or later the Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany. The advantages: these are the most comfortable comfort castle ever built, combining strong defense with luxury. Mostly they have tall towers, providing excellent views of the surrounding area. Disadvantages: the large windows seems to be a disadvantage, and decorative elements made them more vulnerable to attacks. These were the most expensive castle to maintain and repair. These were built mostly for comfort and luxury and less for military purposes. Alright, the seventh one is the Cliffside or Castle on the Rock. Various periods, so these were built from 10th centuries until 16th or 17th centuries. Cliffside Castle on the Rock. This structure, built on rocky outcrops for natural defense. This is a big difference. Natural defense. These were near impenetrable strongholds with natural advantage. Stronghold. Example, the Montségur Castle in France. Alright, let's start to unveil some advantages. First advantages: extremely difficult to attack. Difficult to attack. Due to their elevated positions on cliffs, mountains, or hills. Natural rock formations reduce the need of extensive fortifications, somehow cheaper to build than the others. Often had excellent strategic visibility of the surrounding areas. This seems to be the perfect way to build a castle in medieval ages. Well, not yes, but as well there were some disadvantages. The main disadvantages because due to the natural conditions on elevated cliffs or rocks, it was difficult to supply. So, difficult to supply with food and water. and very hard for expansion or comfort. So hard to expand. Hard to expand. Due to the limited natural conditions. And it was harder to access even for its inhabitants. These castles were used mostly as a last resort in an invasion or in a siege. Mostly as the last resorts, defense resorts. Next and the last one, the water castle, was their castle design. Mostly between 13th and 16th century. The structure is completely surrounded by water, making it harder to be penetrated by the attacking armies and offering a natural defense bonus. Well, the water could be moats, lakes or rivers. These will enhance defense by restricting access in just a few points. Example, Chateau de Chenonceau in France. Alright, and now the advantages. The advantages. Water barrier. So, water barrier. Excellent for defense and less prone, making the fortress less prone to assault. They could use water as supply for drinking and fishing during a siege. Often aesthetically pleasing and symbolic of wealth and power. And their disadvantage required extensive maintenance to prevent water damage. So extensive maintenance. If the water supply was cut off or frozen, it could weaken the defense. So during winter times, this was prone to be assaulted more easily if the water was frozen. Prone to damp conditions, making them less comfortable for term residents. Well, try to imagine what is living in such a fortress in the summer in a hot area, and try to imagine how many billions of mosquitoes will swarm around due to the water. Alright, well, now, this was one of my favorite history lessons. Well, history combined with engineering and, well, what can I say, and architecture. Now we know more about how the castles were built in medieval times in Europe. These marvelous structures are very impressive, even today in modern times. And of course, each castle that we visit today has its own legends, tales, and history. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I wish you all the best. Bye bye. Sorry.